Kazuha came out ages ago, but if for some reason you just now got him and have no idea how to make him work, I'm here to save you. Kazuha was originally introduced as a support character, but thanks to his pretty simple and universal kit, his fanbase quickly decided to make him work as a DPS. This guide will show you both ways to build him, so if you haven't decided which option you like more, I've got your back. Let's start with introducing his talents, since it will be useful for both options. His normal attack works the same way as for almost every character, so let's not waste our precious time on that. It just deals physical damage to opponents and can provide up to 5 attacks. Kazuha's elemental skill, Chiyaburu, has both press and hold options. The pressed option deals less damage, but you can use it mid-air, which you can use to, for example, save yourself from dying a terrible death by falling. It also has a shorter cooldown than hold. The hold option can't be used mid-air, but it deals greater damage and also lifts you higher. Both of them provide you with great grouping, and it infuses Kazuha's next plunging attack with Anemo, letting you deal even more elemental damage. His elemental burst, which has the extremely creative name Kazuha Slash, will create a field called Outman Whirlwind that deals Anemo damage to enemies periodically, and which can also absorb Hydro, Electro, Cryo or Pyro damage to do that element damage as well. His first passive talent, Somen's Swordmanship, allows his skill to swear elements other than Dendro, Anemo or Geo, and if you use his plunged attack, it will deal an additional 200% attack of the absorbed elemental type's damage. The second passive, Poetics of Fubutsu, is more a support thing because it increases all party members' elemental damage bonus by 0.4% for the element absorbed in Swirl by every point of elemental mastery Kazuha has. This effect lasts for 8 seconds. Effects provided by this can coexist, which means the bonus can be applied for a few different elements without cancelling the previous ones. The last passive, Cloud Strider, decreases all party members' stamina consumption when running by 20%. Since we're talking about talents, here are the talent priorities for every build. For support Kazuha, you'd want to level his talents starting from elemental skill, later elemental bursts. Leveling them equally is a good option too, leaving normal attacks up to your needs. For pure support, you won't be using them a lot though. Anemo DPS users should focus on elemental skill first, then later burst, and normal attacks last. I would recommend leveling normal attacks at least to level 6 or 7 so you can deal decent damage with it when waiting for your cooldown to end. People who want to use him as a physical DPS should focus on normal attacks first, then his elemental skill and burst for the last. Next, I will quickly introduce his constellations. His first constellation decreases his elemental skill cooldown and makes using his elemental burst reset the cooldown of his skill. Second constellation increases elemental mastery by 200 for both him and party members when they are inside the field created by his burst. Third and fifth constellations increase his skill and burst levels by 3. Fourth constellation solves any energy recharge problems you might have because it makes Kazuha restore 3 or 4 energy after using his skill and regenerate energy by 2 while gliding every second. Both effects are activated only when his current energy is below 45. Sixth constellation gives him Anemo infusion for 5 seconds after using his skill burst, while also making him deal additional normal, charged or plunge attack damage by 0.2 for every elemental mastery point he has. Now, knowing how his kit works, we can start with the proper guide. The first build I will introduce is the support one, so if you're interested in the DPS one, use the video chapters or timestamp to skip to it. Building a support Kazuha, you will want to focus on making your elemental mastery as high as possible to make his second passive more useful, so your weapon substat and artifact's main stats should focus on it. The best artifact set choice would be 4-piece Viridescent Venerer, which provides you with increased swirl damage and a decrease of opponent's elemental resistance for the swirled element. If you can't afford it just yet, you can give him 2-piece of any elemental mastery artifacts. For beginners, 4-piece Instructor will be the best. For main stats, it will be best to go with Elemental Mastery Sands, Goblet and Circlet, but you can also use an Anemo Damage Goblet and Energy Recharge or Crit Circlet. For substats on your artifacts, the best will be Elemental Mastery and Energy Recharge, but you can also use Crit Rate and Crit Damage to increase damage dealt by your Kazuha on his own. The best weapon for support Kazuha is his signature, Freedom Sworn, providing you with a big amount of elemental mastery and also increasing your damage after triggering an elemental reaction. It will also increase your whole team's damage. If you don't have it, you can use Sky Piercing Fang, which can be obtained from the standard banner. Its substat, Energy Recharge, will help you get his burst back quicker, and its passive will increase your crit rate, speed and damage. Another good option is Light of Foliar Incision, helping you by increasing both crit damage and crit rate. If you don't have any of the above, don't worry. Kazuha's universal and non-complicated kit makes him work with a lot of 4-stars too. You can either go with elemental mastery boosting swords like Iron Sting, the Ali Flash, Siphos Moonlight or even limited Tokabo Shigura. Their passives will also be useful for Kazuha, giving him either attack or energy recharge boost. Talking about energy recharge, weapons like Flev, Sandre, Ferryman, I'm sorry for all French people watching this, Sacrificial Sword, Favonius Sword and another even limited weapon, Festering Desire, with energy recharge main stat can also be used on him. Also, passives of these weapons will be useful for him. When it comes to team comps, he will work just amazing with any Pyro, Hydro, Electro or Cryo DPS, or in reaction teams where one of these elements shine through. Now, time for my DPS Kazuha girlies, or boys, or non-binary people. For Anemo DPS, the best artifacts would be either any 2-piece set with Anemo damage bonus paired with another 2-piece Anemo damage set, 2-piece of any attack set or any elemental mastery set, or if you don't have any of the above, to make a 2-piece build you can go with 4-piece Gladiator. For lower ARs you can use Berserk, Braveheart or Gambler. The best main stat for this type of DPS would be Attack or Elemental Mastery Sands, Anemo Damage Goblet and Crit Circlet for whichever crit you need more. For substats you want Attack, Crit Damage, Crit Rate and Elemental Mastery. For physical DPS, you can use 4-piece Pale Flame, 4-piece Bloodstained Chivalry, or another 2-piece combination of any of the physical damage sets with any attack set, or 2-piece of both physical damage artifacts. For lower AR players, you can use the same artifacts as stated above, so Berserk, Braveheart or Gambler, with Martial Artist added to the group. Main stats you'd like to have would be Attack Sands, Physical Damage Goblet and Crit Circlet for, again, whichever crit you need more. For substats you'd like to focus on Attack and Crit. For any DPS builds weapons, the best would be Light of Foliar Incision, which was already introduced in the support build. Haran Geppaku Futsu, increasing crit rate, elemental damage and attack damage, so you can use it for a physical build, but the first part of the passive will be useless. Mist-Splitter Reforged, which has crit damage as the main stat and passive increasing again elemental damage, so again it won't be that useful for a physical build, but also giving you increased normal attack damage, which will be really useful for physical DPS. Another good weapon with a crit rate main stat is Primordial Jade Cutter, with its passive increasing your HP and giving you an attack bonus dependent on your max HP. If you don't have any of these, you can also go with Splendor of Tranquil Waters and Uraku Misugiri, but the passive talents of these weapons will be completely or almost completely useless. For physical DPS, you can also use Aquila Favonia, which heals and deals additional damage when you get hit. Leaving 5 stars behind us, let's quickly jump to 4 stars. The first 4-star weapon you can use is Blackcliff Longsword, with a crit damage main stat. Its passive will increase your damage after killing an opponent up to 3 times. You can get it from Star Glitter Exchange. You can also use weapons with an attack main stat like Amenoma Kageuchi, helping you if you have energy problems, Kagotsurube Ishin, increasing your attack and dealing extra AoE damage if you hit opponents with normal, charged or plunging attacks, Lion's Roar, increasing damage against opponent affected by Pyro or Electro, Royal Longsword, increasing your crit rate by 8% after hitting an opponent up to 5 times, the Flute, gaining stacks after using normal attack and dealing extra damage after getting 4 stacks. For non-free-to-play players, you can also use either of the Battle Pass swords. For physical builds, you can also use Prototype Rancor with its physical damage main stat. Coming to an end with teams you can use. For Anemo DPS Kazuha, his universality makes him work with almost everyone, so supports like Bennett, Shinshu, Mona, Shanlin, Cookie, Fischl, Diona, Barbara, Layla, Kaya, and Rosaria will be your best friends. You can mix them up together, creating different team comps. You can also use other characters, just keep in mind that Swirling will be one of your main sources of damage. The teams I will recommend would be Kazuha, Bennett, Shinshu or Mona, Shanlin for Swirl and Vaporize, Kazuha, Bennett, Rosaria or Kaya, Layla or Diona or Shanlin for Swirl and Melt, Kazuha, Rosaria, Layla, Shinshu or Mona for Swirl and Freeze, Kazuha, Bennett, Shanlin, Cookie or Fischl for Swirl and Overload. For physical teams, you'd like to have a Cryo and Electro character in your party, since Super Contact lowers enemies' physical res. I would recommend Kazuha, Cookie or Fischl or Yae or Raiden, Layla or Diona or Rosaria or Kaya, and one more character of your choice. And to end it all, here's the usual lore fun fact. Kazuha has an ability to predict the weather. And that would be all for our Ultimate Kazuha guide. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. Good luck on your pulls and have a nice day!